All right, welcome to the Design Build Show. I have with me now Mr. Charlie Silva.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Mr. Silva is a frequent, what would you call yourself on this old house?
On this old house, well, Silva Brothers is the contractors on the show.
Yep.
So we are the contractors that run the project.
Cool. And how many this old house shows have you been on?
I don't know. Probably, I don't know, since back in the late 80s it started.
Wow.
To present. So more now than before.
Holy cow, okay, good. So more than you can count.
Right. And,
okay.
And this whole house is 40 years this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope to be on one this old house show in my lifetime.
Well, I know somebody that may get you in there.
All right, yeah, let's keep talking. Well, Mr. Silva.
Charlie, please. Charlie.
Okay. Charlie, as he said, is one of the co-owners of, or now the sole owner of Silva Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And is and all that work that you see on this old house, all the carpentry work, the general contracting work is performed by his company. And like, I just want to talk about that real briefly because, you know, you have HGTV. Charlie is speaking at a local trade membership group tonight, kind enough to donate his time to help get the trades into young people's hands more.
Yep.
But a trade group like us, like I own a remodeling company, HGTV doesn't really have the greatest reputation with us, but this show does. It always has. It really has integrity, and it really exemplifies the industry extremely well. So just, you know, thank you for being part of that as well for all those years. But this is the Design Build Show, so let's get right into it. Okay. You are a general contractor.
True.
Right?
I am, but I also didn't start out as being the general contractor. Literally started out 37 years ago in the trenches, so to speak.
Yep.
Digging footings, carrying lumber, picking up the roof shingles on the ground when the other guy stripped them because I wasn't good enough to go on top of the roof yet.
Yeah.
And then slowly progressed to present, but you know, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that are on the way. But what's nice about that is, you know, you hung your own blue board, and we plastered, we insulated, we framed, we roofed, installed the windows, we did the siding. So it teaches you, it's a long path to get there, but it teaches you what it takes, what goes into a house, which helps you realize, you know, water protection, but also, you know, figuring a job. How much time does it take to build that deck, dig those footings, etc. So got that house, all of that.
Yeah. So I'm writing a book now on design build, and the whole premise is really like, if you look at the architect of, you know, say like 1880s, they were the builder, and some of the things you just said, like they know how to build. Like you can see a home, like you know what a home is made of. You can look at a home when it was built and kind of know what you have right then and there.
Sure.
And you know how long it's going to take. You know all the sequences, the trades, what it's going to cost. These are all things that when you're designing, it's helpful to know, right?
Sure.
So we talked a little bit just before we pressed the record button about how you do work with architects. Yeah. Could you talk about that?
Well, you know, there's a handful of architects that I work closely with all the time, and you know, sometimes somebody might call for a job and there's an architect I've never heard of. But depending on the job, when you get a set of plans, whether it's an addition or it's a new house or it's a large renovation, first things I look at, especially if it's a larger home to build, is the mechanicals, what it takes to run a house. Almost nobody thinks about how many mechanical rooms you should have. Should there be one centrally located in the basement to get to the basement first floor? Is there an attic to put the units upstairs?
Yeah.
You know, zoning a house properly. There's the little things like that. Fresh air intake. Houses are too tight right now. You know, you have to bring fresh air in.
So when you get a set of plans, do you typically get a mechanical plan or no?
No. I actually don't want one because, you know,
you want to design build it.
Well, true. In that phase we do, and because I have my close subs that we work with that know their end of it, and then I'll work with them thinking about the return air coming in, you know, zoning 2 zones of air conditioning on each floor if it's needed. So, you know, that's extremely important to figure out. And also, they design a master bathroom over an open kitchen down below. Where is the toilet draining? Are there any walls to go down? Look at the framing plan. Is there a large beam you can't drain through? For the PVC pipe.
Right. Practical things that you need to figure out. Ideally before you start construction, right? Otherwise, because that can make changes in the plans themselves, right?
Absolutely. The frame. A perfect example is a lighting plan in a kitchen. Let's say the framing is all lined up, typically how it would be. Well, maybe it hits every recessed light. I like the recessed lights to line up over at the center of a kitchen cabinet where the two doors might, close. That to me, they should be right on. So I ask for the lighting plan ahead of time in areas like that so we can adjust our framing plan to it. So saves the customer some, how many people think of that?
Yeah, not many. I tell you that right now.
Now I've told my secret.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what do you do? Do you adjust the framing plan, or do you just know, hey, when I lay out this framing, I know I have my lighting, and so you're just gonna.
Sometimes a combination of both.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a major steel beam running down that can't be moved.
Yeah.
And you just bring it up, everybody's attention. Well, we might have to use some surface mounted lights above the island because there's a steel beam there.
Yeah.
Or if you really want the recess, we have to maybe tweak something. All of that stuff.
Gotcha. What are some other things that when you get a set of plans typically aren't as thought out as maybe that you are then going to kind of fill the void?
I'll give you a perfect example. Water table. We'll do it
on an exterior of a home.
Well, the water table with the fountain, where is the 500-year storm, 100-year storm? Where is that flood? You dig a hole, you have somebody come in, they do a soil test.
Yeah.
We did one time, and we ended up raising the house 3 feet higher than the architect had spec'd on the plan.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm not blaming the architect, but I wanted to know because I knew there was water in the area.
Gotcha. How did you discover that it should be 3 feet higher?
Because we had the soil test. You dig a 8-foot hole, the guy goes in the hole, he does the soil test where the stains are in the soil, and it showed where the 500-year storm was. And the lot was big enough, we were able to raise it, you changed the grade a little bit, still looked great. Wow. 5 years later, after the house was built, we still put a hole for the pump in the basement floor. Didn't need a pump. They had the big 500-year storm again. The water came within 6 inches below the finished concrete floor in the basement. If it was 3 feet lower, they would have had 2.5 feet of water in their finished basement.
Oh, it was finished. Wow.
So
that's awesome.
That's where I start.
Yeah.
Is there any lakes, rivers, streams in the area? Is it a wetlands? Is it marshy? Anything like that?
I'm gonna just keep you going now because later I'm gonna write all this down.
But you start with that. I mean, I've had that happen multiple times, and you think about it. What's another foot and a half, 2 feet, 3 feet?
Yeah.
Right. So you start with that. And then
is that a standard for you to do the soil test on any new construction, or
not always? But it depends on the area.
You knew that had water, and
I knew that could be an issue.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And then and that's not in the code to do. But then I look at grade. Is there a slope in the back, and is there going to be a waterproofing issue? I waterproof. I don't damp proof. The perimeter drains. Where's the drainage going to go?
Yeah.
Is it a small lot? Water has to go somewhere, especially with the restrictions nowadays. Your water has to go somewhere. You just can't dump it to the street.
Yeah.
So that's where you start before a shovel ever goes in the ground.
Right. Any other? So when you get a set of plans from an architect, and all your projects they're designed by another designer or architect?
Yeah, we don't design our own.
You also do projects that are large enough but it does require plans.
Yes, absolutely. Well, just to get a permit structurally, and specs for the windows, etc. But a lot of times it's not like a set of plans you get, then there be tweaking on the way. Move a wall, and if it's structural, you deal with that as you go. But molding details or layouts for some certain things the customer might not know yet.
Yeah.
Tile selection.
Yeah. So, what you look at a lot of plans then, right?
Yes.
Do you do all the estimating?
Yes.
Okay. So what separates a great set of plans for you, where you're like, hey, this kind of makes, I don't have to ask 50 questions or get a bunch of things clarified versus.
I mean, you have to have the structurals to get a permit, so that's number one, right? So that's the windows are a big one. So the customers, you can price those out if they need to know. So the brand of window, the mutton pattern, things like that. Siding selection, is it, to match an existing on addition, or is it a wood, some of the newer homes that we're doing on the big estates is a wood roof, maybe a masonry detail. Another thing to look at, going back to the beginning of looking at a plan, is there a brick shelf for a stone masonry, veneer foundation, or we've done them where there's a 6-inch granite veneer, but that has to come into consideration with the shelf on the plate above and the wall, so forth. So, then carrying that line around, is it around the whole house? So do you need a 6-inch shelf in the foundation? You think of that. And is there any penetrations in the foundation you might want to think of ahead to pre-drill or cut something? So that's another big one to look for.
Good. Are all these things you look for, and then the suggestions or tweaks that you make, is that all done before construction, or the majority of it?
Generally, it's done before it. And when to hit on the mechanicals again, I hit the mechanicals in the beginning. You give all the options, whether it's, most likely they're going to have air conditioning.
Yeah.
Are you going to have hot air heat with the air conditioning? Some people choose that. Do you want radiant heat? I'm a big fan of zoning a house.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, my house has 10 zones of heat.
Okay. How big? How many square feet is it?
It's 4,000 or so, 4,000 plus. But every bedroom has a thermostat. Every bathroom has a thermostat.
Okay.
Just because of the type of heating. So whether it's baseboard heat or radiant heat, zoning is never mind that it's comfortable, because one person might want to sleep at 66, the other wants to sleep at 72 in the other bedroom. Right?
Yeah.
So in the bathroom. So, and also you can run your house more efficiently that way too, because one thermostat's not at 72 and one room's 86 and the other one's 43. So especially the older homes, when you.
So you want to get all that sorted out kind of beforehand. Let the
give
client know what their options are.
Right. Yeah. Give them their options. Talk about it ahead of time, and they might say, no, I want to go with the system of this. We'll have 4 zones. We'll split it off that way. But knowing that ahead of time, especially, it's extremely important to know to come into budget.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then to that end, you work with a lot of the same architects, I'm sure.
Yeah.
When are you typically seeing? Are they sharing like, hey, here's our schematic phase level drawings, or is it always, hey, we have full construction documents, structural, or?
A lot of times you're right in the beginning, truthfully, especially the ones that you've worked for. I've worked with some for 20 years. Yeah. And, we know each other very well. And I've driven, into his head so many years now.
You've trained them, right? Yeah.
I mean,
to whatever extent, yeah.
Yeah, they don't think about it first, but they knew this was beautiful, but I have no mechanical room.
Yeah. So you're giving him feedback through the iterations. Any other things like buildability, like the structure, how to do something more efficiently, or?
I mean, I think.
So you get into that, or?
The efficiency of the house running, you mean, or just?
Or like, there's a specific design feature or detail that they want to achieve that maybe they've never done before, or is unique and takes somebody who's, knows exactly how to build it. Or,
yeah, I mean, I think probably the best example of something that might be is if, they have a big family room with, they don't want any columns in it, or so there's, there's a finished basement, for example, where you don't want a lally column right there, so you're going to use a piece of steel, and you pre-think that, and we talked to the architect and said, well, if we put a piece of steel here, we can cant and carry over this way and support. So you look for that, and there's ways to maybe change the direction of the framing because the toilet has to drain, opposed to cutting through 20 eye joists or floor joists. If we can turn the framing and run it down one bay, saves time and labor. Much more efficient.
Cool. Do you ever give design feedback, like aesthetically or functionally input, or do you
be careful stepping on people's toes too? They get a little offended.
Them.
But what I'll look at is typically is where the water's running on the roofs. They might have this beautiful design, and then the valley's 40 feet coming down to a 3-foot gutter. There's zero chance the water's ever going to
jump right over it, right?
So you bring stuff like that, and maybe tweak that a little bit and talk about it.
Yeah, cool.
Skylight. I had a guy one time put a skylight right into the valley. Not the best idea, so we moved that. Yep.
Like literally.
The corner of the skylight was in the valley.
Okay.
So
little hard to flash.
Yes, we
that, right?
tweaked that and made it work.
Cool. How many architects do you work with consistently?
Probably 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they love you?
Love might be a strong word, but I think so. Yeah.
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 Do they?
But I love them too.
Yeah. It's
know, and I
collaborative
recommend-
process,
it is.
right? Like
It is.
because you don't get into the design. Like you let them handle that.
Correct.
That's their role, right?
That's their role.
They're gonna create something beautiful. That's
Yes.
functional. That's
Yep.
you know they've
Correct.
gotten to know the client extremely well, and they're gonna create that picture, right? That you're gonna then execute.
And then it's my job to make sure that home runs correctly. You know, whether it's a water issue that I'm thinking ahead, but it is my job to. This is very key. It's my job, even if the architect that I've known for 20 years recommends me to do it. Is my job to protect the customer.
Yeah.
I am working for them.
Yeah.
And I always tell them also, it is your money. Don't ever be afraid to ask a question to the architect, the builder. Some people feel a little intimidated. I said, it's your home. It is their home.
Yeah.
We're just working there and making it happen for them.
Right.
Don't ever feel intimidated about asking a question. No question is stupid. So, it's a stupid. It's not. No question is stupid if you don't understand something.
Yeah, and I mean these 4 or 5 architects that you work with, I'm sure they have a similar viewpoint, where it's like they're going for the end goal. They want the client to be happy, and I mean I think it's not design build, right? But it's kind of a mindset of accountability and like overstepping your bounds. Like if you need to, you're gonna freaking say, hey, these drawings,
Absolutely.
here's my input on these drawings, and that's gonna make a better project.
Yeah, I won't do something wrong.
Yeah, right. And I think, that like separating it, that's one of the things I like about design build, because it's kind of built into it more innately. Whereas when it is separated, you can get guys who are like, oh, I'm just doing my job, right? That's not, and that leads to issues.
It does.
So, today you're going to talk about
apprentices. Yes.
And the next generation coming up. And you said you had 3 last season, right, on this
Yes.
old house? And one of them is interested in getting into architecture?
Yes, yeah, Bailey out of Maine. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
She actually brought a set of plans down that she, I believe, got an A on, and she's actually
Oh, cool.
already employed.
Oh, wow.
So it's great. And,
My belief is that the best background for an architect to start is in the trades. I mean, historically,
yes,
that's how you became an architect. You started off as an apprentice, then a journeyman, then a master. The
Yeah.
derivation of architect is master builder.
Yeah.
And then you became a master and you are an architect. And I think like you're filling that void for an architect on this, buildability, the mechanicals, costing, scheduling. But if you have that knowledge, as an architect, I think you would be delivering so much more service,
Sure.
so much more, so that's pretty neat.
it is. The problem is you have to put in years and years and decades into
Yeah.
the knowledge of just everything that we do.
Yeah.
And not many people want to do that, especially then become the architect.
Right.
But years back, like you're talking, it was just the natural flow of it, that's what they did. But nowadays it's very rare.
I totally agree. I mean, even myself, like I was never a great carpenter.
Right.
I started out as an architect.
Yeah.
I realized I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yes.
hold on. I was like, hold on. I've never built anything.
Right.
How am I going to tell somebody what to build or how to build something? It just never made sense to me. So I intentionally worked as a carpenter. I stopped. I said, I got to fill this void. But I never I'm nowhere near the master that you are. Like I just didn't spend enough time. Like you were telling me, for 10 years, between the ages of 24 to 34, you worked 7 days a week, 10 hours a day.
More.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah.
So you're like, yeah. So I don't have that, but I think you can have an entity or a company where you can have people who share, have different skill sets that together bring that whole, which is essentially what you're doing now, right?
Yes.
Like the architect handles the design, the specific like aesthetic functionality.
That's right.
You're bringing in, and together it's a whole, and you're providing the client with an amazing product and service.
Yes. You're only good as good. I can be as good as I can be, but I'm only as good as the people I surround myself with. Yeah. And I always say, oh, you did a nice job building the house. I said, no, we did a nice job building this house. Whether it's my guys working, subcontractors, electrical, plumbing.
Totally
you
agree.
are only as good as
totally
the people
agree.
you surround with, right?
I 100% agree. I mean, I could never do any. I mean, in my company now, I'm more of a stick figure. Like, it's really the people in my company who are the leaders and really like making things go right. And it's, whatever knowledge I have, I'd like to impart in them and oversee it.
And you run things by other people. So I get involved in the mechanicals like we talked about, and I'll talk to those guys. I don't leave it to somebody else. And then all of a sudden you're building, you're like, well, we didn't think about the return air that we might need to get it. Because it can't be done halfway. It has to be done 100% correct when it comes to, everything, but the mechanicals. That's what makes the house run correctly. And you're not doing, it's not a do-over. You don't tweak that afterwards.
I totally agree. I mean, I've been thinking about lately, just to kind of jump off a little bit, but like, Elon Musk, right? He wants to create a colony on Mars, right? So I'm thinking about like, well, you're going to have a station there, right? Like the room for error, you think about it in that context, like the margin for error, like you don't have any margin for error, right? But it's like in this industry, there's a larger margin for error than there should be.
Right.
I think it's just a mindset like you have to get it right the first time and make sure everything's thought through.
Yeah, and that comes into renovating a home. I don't know if you've done that much also, but you walk into a home.
That's what we do primarily, yeah.
First thing I look at when you go to an old home, what would you guess? First thing I look for? I'll help you out.
A mechanic?
Thermostat. How many thermostats in an old home? Big
Yeah.
old homes, how many they have? One.
Typically, yeah.
Right? 3 floors.
Yeah.
Crank the heat where you want it. Everybody else is suffering in the other floors.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
First thing I look at.
Yeah.
And then you get into the renovation of thinking about, are your mechanicals going to be updated? If they are, here are some of the options. Maybe it's a complete renovation of it. Maybe it's halfway. Maybe you tweak what you have to 3 zones, so 1 per floor.
Yeah.
But you look at that, and you know what people usually say is, geez, nobody else ever said that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you look for the thermostat, how to run this house.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I have another question for you. It's brewing.
Oh, good.
So on this old house, it's all a separate architect, right? Have you ever done a design build project on this old house?
No.
I would like to be the first. That's going to be my pitch.
Okay.
All right. We'll somehow have to figure it out.
Well, we can give it a shot.
Yeah. Any parting words of wisdom for us?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that we touched on, which is great about a home, and I think really the big one is, and I'm not sure the audience, but is a homeowner feeling comfortable with the architect, with the builder, with just anything. Never feel intimidated. Never feel that you can't ask any questions. No question is stupid, what some people might say. And take the advice that whether it's I'm giving somebody, but for options, maybe instead of the only one way there's 3 options, and it's there's 3 different price sets. But what is that going to give you? So that's really for the homeowner. And I mean, advice and anything else is just doing the right job and good job and thinking ahead, right?
Yeah.
The lighting plan, the toilet draining, is where does the sewer go out the side of the foundation? Do they have all those little things? Waterproofing.
Yeah, and I would add to it, if you are looking at doing a substantial project and you're just looking at design build, design bid build, which is what Charlie practices. It's really about the setup. Like the way he's going at it, the architect and builder are collaborating.
Yes.
So you have a fair amount of surety. You're not going to get stuck in the middle. But when the client, you say, oh, don't be afraid to ask questions. When there is a separate architect and there is a separate builder, it's kind of like, oh, well, who do you trust? if there's any sort of adversity there, that's a problem, right?
There's a big problem.
Because then they're stuck in the middle.
There's a big problem.
So you want to have it be where, you know, there's mutual collaboration, respect, and both parties are thinking with the client as the first priority in mind, and not about themselves.
Correct.
And trying to like be right or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? Shouldn't have an ego.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No. Nobody's better. I'm no better than anybody else on the job site. I show up with my truck, I unload my truck. I don't expect everybody else to unload my truck for me. They unload it with me. But it's a team. It's a team effort, period.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and hope you guys enjoyed this show. You'll see Charlie on This Old House, and thank you for speaking tonight as well.
Oh, thank you.
Look forward to it. All right.
My pleasure.
And we're at the retro chairs. Thank you for Crown Plaza in Natick for hosting us. Yes.